Welcome to Series C Growthonomics. Today we'll continue our conversation on data science and FinTech. Today's focus is going to be application, the biggest use cases in marketing. So, and again, when we're talking about marketing, our focus here is revenue. We started with risk in our episode number 2 in the series, and then we talked about product. And so today, product and marketing are both going to be focused on revenue. And then the last episode next week, we will talk about operations, which is going to be focused on cost. So if you remember the Pareto, which I always recommend for any organization to find your biggest opportunities, it's always going to be start with your KPI DuPont, figure out your KPIs, what are the biggest drivers, and then figure out the drivers of the drivers, and then figure out the Pareto of what are the biggest, where the biggest impact lies, and those are the kind of, and to move those dials is where your analytics can help you. And so we focused on like this. These are the three components: revenue, cost, and loss. And so again, going back to our focus today will be marketing. Now, marketing again has a huge. It's very rich in fintech. There's a lot of opportunity. One of the opportunities that often, and it's related, is to acquisition. So LTV and acquisition. How do you define the profitability and value of your customer, and then how do you use that to acquire? Where are your best customers? Where are they coming from? Right. So those are the two big opportunities. LTV, acquisition. Another related one is segmentation, where you want to understand, especially as your organization grows, your product may be getting used for beyond your primary use case that you started with. A prime example is PayPal. When we last did this exercise with PayPal, especially segmenting the base, most people were thinking around, we have merchants and then we have P2P, people to people. Those are the two segments. They were merchants, they were big, large, small merchants. Those were some segmentation. And then they were like people who were sending money to people. When we actually started doing some segmentation, we found close to 30, I think 30 plus use cases, which were various different applications. So even within, for example, people sending money to people, they were recovering payment, and that recurring payment product feature came out of the segmentation exercise, where we showed that, hey, wait a minute, people are sending money, but the same pair is repeating it, and maybe this is bi-weekly cycle, this is maybe monthly, this is people paying their cleaner, people paying their gardener on a repeated basis. Why don't we have a recurring product? And that's where it sort of recurring product even emerged in the P2P space, and we observed same for the merchant side. So huge opportunity in segmentation. It's often not directly dollar related. The exercise of segmentation directly may not give you dollars, but once you know your segment, you can base your price. Earlier last time we talked about pricing, packaging. And what is we didn't talk about is specifically is profile. Who will take what package at what price, right? That who is what will come out of segmentation. Who are these people? You're this people, there's one use case, and profile, and I would say even product, right? You can develop your product for that profile at that price, and packaging could be part of the product. But it comes out of segmentation. Who are your distinct customers and their user behavior? And that's a big application. So don't I would say, even though segmentation is very foundational work and people look at it and say it's not directly revenue related, right? But it's downstream revenue. Once you know these segments, you can customize your product, customize even your flows according to which segment it's coming from. And I think we've talked about LTV in prior sessions. I'm not going too much in detail, but a typical lifetime value is a projected value, and you would want to invest in per user or per account level LTV, so that you know what kind per account, what is the projected LTV, and thereby offer you can do various level of even servicing. Your SLAs may be different depending on projected LTV, like let's say 2 year, 3 year LTV, depending on if it's higher LTV versus lower LTV, you can potentially do various different SLAs. You can also understand. You can use LTV to understand best sources of acquisition for you, and so that acquisition analytics is often tied, by channel, by sources, and you're looking at LTV to understand where the biggest, best bets are coming for you. And then the last big part of targeting, I would say, is of marketing, I would say, is targeting. How do you create targets when you are doing and targeting as it relates to campaign and marketing, right? So how do you do campaign marketing, and where the biggest opportunities are? Do you market everything to everybody? Are there certain targets? Do you create, maybe you have more than 4 products, 5 products? How do you target your offerings in your for your that campaign? What kind of, which user base, what section of your user base will make most sense? So these are the key applications. And then let's talk about the machine learning algorithm for LTV. Often you will use machine learning and AI. Often it's going to be a regression based, because the output is going to be a value that you predict. We built an LTV model for one of our clients, Kiva. They're not what you would call a traditional FinTech, but they have a sender and a receiver of funds, or funds meaning they're loans, micro loans. And so we build the LTV for them, those who are LTV for Kiva, which is LTV for donation to Kiva from the sender of the funds. And pretty significant, so it was a gradient boosted tree application, which is still the regression, GBRT, gradient boosted regressive tree. In machine learning, you can use classification algorithm and regression, output continuous variable. So this is one of the big this XGBoost as well as GBT. You'll try more than one, of course, and then depending on how the size of the data, you will also try neural nets for LTV. Acquisition analytics is usually done at an aggregate level. So you would use some really simple business analytics correlation to find what is the best opportunity. You could use, if you have LTV per person, you could use some more detailed and fine combing in your acquisition to find out, as people come in, actually give them a score already, and direct them in different places. But that's typically done at an aggregate level. For segmentation, you would use an algorithm called clustering. I think we may have talked about it in one of the videos before. K-median, K-means clustering is what you would use for segmentation. Sometimes, but you'll always want to go with, even though it is unsupervised, you would want to go with hypothesized segments. So that you are, people also always say when we go through segmentation, like let data tell the story, and I'll keep saying to them, what's your hypotheses? Let's build to your hypotheses, because clustering is often very hard to get results out of, or segmentations are hard to achieve without necessarily focusing, especially in very unbalanced data. Especially if your base is such that very small percentage of people do everything. Most freemium clients, which happens less in transaction processing, but if you have very small, you'll make most of your money from very small number of customers. If that's true for you, then segmentation is going to be very hard for you. And that's where you have to be you have to go with your hypothesized segment, which goes back to our feature engineering that I talk about it all the time. So that's what you would use. And then, targeting segmentation is a classic application for machine learning. And these are usually classification-based machine learning that you would go for. So these are big applications. I would say the biggest, if you're looking for use cases and saying, where do we start? You would often, depending on the size of your company, will start with that segmentation, but very quickly come into LTV and acquisition analytics. How smart you are in acquiring your customer is going to define, your revenue and the cost part. So there is I would say almost marketing drives revenue, but it is an ROI because there is a significant cost. acquisition, for example, you have paid acquisition, you might be spending money. You want to be very diligent on where you are spending money. And when you have an idea of LTV, you might know, hey, actually, customers who are coming from referral, their LTV is the highest. We can double down on that. Or those who are coming from certain, like, those who are coming from Google versus Bing, they have 2x or 4x LTV. Those are the kinds of information that you can use very quickly to save dollars and make dollars. So that is why these four areas is where you would focus for data science and fintech. Next time we're going to talk about, so we've talked about revenue, we've talked about the losses. We started with losses, it's very important. Next time we'll talk about the cost side. We'll talk about the customer ops side.